Maustria must not be divided. The loyalist faction under Gudarian has been defeated, and the old count has bent the knee to young King Sivka. Baron Gamelost, regent of the royalist faction, has gathered his armies and marched to find the Duc de Brugy, head of the Burgundii faction. Brugy has grown strong as the royalist and loyalist factions duked it out in many battles. His armies are fresh and formidable. He sees this as the perfect time to strike and knock the royalists out of the war. His forces mass near the city of Milberkäser. Gamelost brings his troops through the Fetka Gap and into eastern Maustria. They are outnumbered by the Burgundii, but there are allies arriving from the north. Dunbaran and Ublicon mercenaries have marched through Praplatkov and need to be gathered to the royal standard. The royal army skirts to the northwest, avoiding battle and evading the scouts of Burgundii. But de Brugy is in no great rush to seek a battle. He also has allies on the way. The Grand Army of Crimsonia is marching to Milberkäser. The Duke simply has to wait until the redcoats arrive, and he will have a massive advantage over the blue-coated royalist Maustrians. Gamelost has no idea the Crimsonians are on the way. His forces link up with the mercenary contingents, and then go hunting for Burgundii. If battle can be joined before Crimsonia arrives, it will be an even fight. But battle will not be joined. The Burgundii evade and avoid and march about. Even allowing the royalists to occupy Milberkäser, the loss of the city will be a problem if his army is defeated, but irrelevant if the Crimsonians can arrive. Almost at the end of the month, royalist scouts detect the presence of Crimsonian cavalry detachments, and come to the conclusion that a mercenary band have marched to aid the Burgundii. Gamelost has had enough of the marching about, and decides to head back towards the Fetka Gap, and through to western Maustria. Now Crimsonia and Burgundii are in communication, and decide to block the royalist escape. Crimsonian First Corps will advance on the town of Markfell to block the royalist columns, while Second Corps holds the door open at Dunwich, for the Burgundii marching down from the north. Citizen General Blackcheddar is convinced the battle will happen at Markfell, and is prepared to put his First Corps in the path of 3 enemy corps and hold until relieved. Gamelost decides to send one of his corps to Dunwich, however, to engage and destroy the Crimsonians before the Burgundii arrive. Command of this assault force is given to a former enemy, the old, but very capable, general, the Count Gudarian. At about midday on the 3rd Tuesday of early spring, Maustrian and Crimsonian cavalry patrols see each other on the Edamer Heights, halfway between Dunwich and Markville. The Crimsonians have reached the peak first, and send reports back to Blackcheddar. Royalist columns of infantry are making their way towards Markfell and Dunwich both, and Royalist cavalry is climbing the heights to drive them away. There is a clash of sabres, and the Crimsonians are pushed away as the heavy Royals secure the hill. The Crimsonian heavy horse stays at the base of the heights. At about 4 o'clock, Gamelost is confident that he has sufficient forces on the heights to march down and engage the head of the Crimsonian army. He can see the Dunbaran and Ublicon mercenaries marching to his support from the west. At the same time, Gudarian is planning to attack the enemy in front of him, a division of Crimsonian infantry deployed to halt him at the base of a small hill called the Queen's Knob. The royalist troops put on a good show for their erstwhile enemy, and do the Count Gudarian good service. Their attack is precise, well executed, and timed to perfection. The Crimsonian line is engaged with musketry, and then a force of cavalry arrives from the flank. The Crimsonian line is disrupted, charged, and shattered, and by 5 p.m. the 2nd Crimsonian Division is effectively destroyed, just as Gamelost begins his attack on Crimsonian 1st and 3rd Divisions. The attack is launched in expectation of mercenary forces arriving on his left, but the Dunbarans and Ublicons are surprised in their march columns by Crimsonian heavy cavalry, which has either gotten lost or followed imprecise orders too precisely. The mercenaries quickly form squares and are reduced to shuffling towards the sound of the guns, under the watchful eyes of the Crimsonian heavy horse. By 6 p.m. Gudarian has utterly smashed all the red-coated formations he can see, and is regrouping his forces when an aide points to the Queen's Knob. There is infantry moving up there, clad in the green jackets of the Burgundii. The Duke has arrived, but does not engage. Most of his army is still strung out on the long road behind. Gudarian grunts and looks to the other prominent hill to the west, the King's Knob. We will move up there. From there we can hold off all comers. Royal Second Corps begins to make its way towards the hill, but only the cavalry will make it to the top before darkness falls. Not wanting to disorient his troops in the dark, Gudarian makes camp around the village of Curdleyville. The village itself is occupied by a brigade of Crimsonian infantry from the 3rd Division. In the west, Gamelos attacks the Crimsonian 1st Division, but the attack has been delayed too long waiting for the mercenaries. There is a brief exchange of fire and a charge, but the Red Jackets hold and push the Royalists back. Darkness falls, and both sides bivouac in their lines, but there will not be much sleep. Both Black Cheddar and Gamelost have determined to march in the darkness, and both to the same destination, Curdleyville. Black Cheddar wants to get his remaining forces closer to those of de Brigy and hopefully crush Gudarian's corps between them. The Crimsonian troops will follow the road and move carefully. Gamelost also wants to bring his forces to Curdleyville with the intention of uniting with Gudarian and smashing the Crimsonians before the Burgundii can arrive in strength. His forces will march cross-country, which is much more difficult than following the road. One Royalist brigade will become disoriented and march directly into grape-shot range of a Crimsonian battery that opens fire. There is a lot of shouting and panicking, but eventually the Royalists arrive south of Curdleyville and make contact with Gudarian's pickets. As dawn breaks, the three armies launch simultaneous attacks. Gamelost's corps, largely disrupted and exhausted by the painful cross-country night march, attacks north towards the Crimsonian forces on the road near Curdleyville. This is 1st Division. Gudarian's forces attack Curdleyville itself, hoping to drive out the garrison and unite with Gamelost. De Brigy orders his 1st Division down from the Queen's Knob, with the 2nd and 3rd Burgundii divisions now on the field to the north of his position. And Crimsonian 3rd Division, led by Black Cheddar, charges up the King's Knob, hoping to secure this rock against all comers. Crimsonian 1st Division is acting as rearguard. The Royalist cavalry on King's Knob move off the heights as the red-jacketed infantry advance, and Gudarian's corps is delayed as the garrison of Curdleyville put up quite a fight. The Crimsonian 3rd Division will take the hill without opposition. And Gamelost's attack sputters out almost before it begins. The utter disorder from the night march is taking ages to sort out. Eventually those units that are fit for action are bundled together into an ad hoc division and sent north. At 7 a.m. the Curdleyville division is destroyed, and Gudarian sends his troops up King's Knob to knock the Crimsonians off. There is a desperate fight for the hill. Gudarian's troops attack and fall back and reform and attack again. The Crimsonians are exhausted but fight on and on. Just as the Crimsonians are out of ammunition and resort to throwing stones, one of the Royal Guards brigades panics at the sight of fleeing bluejackets. The guards retreat, and the nearby regulars do the same. The attack on the hill comes to an end. The Crimsonians atop the King's Knob are on their last legs, but their flags fly on what Black Cheddar now calls the Rock of the Republic. At the base of the Rock of the Republic, Crimsonian 3rd Division is closer to the hard place. Surrounded on all sides by Maustrian and mercenary forces, the 1st forms a large square and holds, and holds, and holds. They are repeatedly struck by Ublicon artillery and shot to pieces by Gamelost's ad hoc division. The order from Streltsoa, the commanding general, is simple: hold, hold, and send as many of these enemies of democracy to the grave as we can. At about 8 a.m, de Brigy's 1st and 2nd Division have reached Gudarian's right wing and centre and attack to relieve pressure on Crimsonian 3rd. The rest of the Burgundii army has marched to the heights above Dunwich, confused by false couriers and stubborn refusal to see sense. On the heights they find the Crimsonian 4th and 6th Divisions, who have orders to guard the road to Dunwich. The 5th Division has advanced to the sound of the guns with the corps commander scouting ahead to see what is happening. Communication with Black Cheddar has been difficult, what with all the enemy in between them. The Burgundii communication problems are more difficult to explain. Only about half of the total Allied army will actually see combat, but they have reserves upon reserves waiting and watching. De Brigy's attack goes well, and over the next hour or two push Gudarian's lines back. The old Count orders one last attack up at the Rock of the Republic. 2 brigades charge into a Crimsonian battery that has run out of shot. They fire pebbles and hurl rocks and squeak their defiance, and it works. With the most unlikely of outcomes, the battery crews stand and fight by their guns, and the Royalist infantry panics and routs back down the hill. At the same time, Citizen General Black Cheddar finds de Brigy's headquarters on the Queen's Knob, and is joined by Gradost of 2nd Corps. The 3 generals share information and agree that they are winning the battle. Black Cheddar rides back to the Rock of the Republic. At about 9 o'clock, de Brugy is joined on his left by the Crimsonian 5th Division. They flank the end of Gudarian's right wing, and the entire formation shatters. General Donnersnack is surrounded and captured by Burgundian infantry. And about now the Burgundian and Crimsonian troops on the ridge east of Dunwich decide they had better join the battle and start marching towards the sound of the guns. And a dispatch reaches Blackcheddar from the lost heavy cavalry units that were harassing the mercenaries the day before. They have not been destroyed, just cut off. They are now making their way back to Crimsonian lines. Blackcheddar orders them to attack the Royalist cavalry to his west, supported by the last of the light cavalry. But by 10 a.m. the cavalry have not moved. Blackcheddar becomes annoyed and decides to ride to their commander to find out what is happening. His path takes him close to an enemy unit of infantry, and the famed commander is shot by pickets and falls to the ground bleeding profusely. As his aides look on, Blackcheddar breathes his last words. What irony! I, its creator, won't be able to witness the Crimsonian century. Even with the citizen general dead, the battle continues. 1st Crimsonian Division holds against absurd odds, holds and dies. De Brugy and Grados advance on the remnants of Gudarian's corps, and then into the disrupted mess of Gamelost's corps. The battle continues past midday, and then the Duc de Brugy stopped issuing orders for a moment as he saw the Crimsonian flags approach. To the south, the constant sound of musketry. To the west, artillery boomed and troops shouted. Here, between Curdleyville and Way Ridge, de Brugy's 1st Corps was advancing against a slowly dissolving enemy line. Victory was close, so very close. The commander of the Crimsonian 2nd Corps rode up. "Duke," he saluted, in that particularly defiant democratic manner, "I have one of your country mice here that wishes to speak to you." The citizen general moved aside, and there was Baron Gamelost in his full regalia. "I am not a prisoner, your grace. I am here under flag of truce, seeking an end to this bloodshed." De Brugy nodded. "Fair enough, Baron. I think this day is decided. I will wait to see what Citizen General Blackcheddar has to say on the matter." "The Citizen General is dead, Duke," the 2nd Corps commander spoke. "He was shot on the Rock of the Republic 3 hours ago, riding to direct the cavalry." The Duke gave a small gasp, shook his head, and then spat on the ground, taking care to miss any nearby corpses. "A terrible shame. What is the Rock of the Republic?" The Crimsonian gestured to King's Knob, the highest point in this part of the field. "That's what the troops are calling the hill, Duke. It's where our 1st Corps stood and died to hold the enemy until your troops and mine could arrive and win the day." A bugle sounded nearby, and Wallace, Earl of Wensleydale, rode up, commander of the 3rd Burgundian Corps and cavalry commander. "Your Grace, I give you joy of the victory. A glorious day. I almost thought we might miss it. But my cavalry are in at the end. Even now the heavies are preparing to assault the last of the Royal Guards. With your infantry, of course, your Grace. But first I have a gift to present you. My troopers found this old mouse on the field south of Curdleyville. He is bleeding, but still alive, tough old rat that he is. Your Grace, may I present? General the Count Gudarian." De Brugy laughed in shock, then collected himself, climbed down from his horse, and walked over to where the Count was being carried on a stretcher. "You are wounded, Count?" Gudarian grunted. "A minor wound. Not like the one you have put in the heart of Maustria, your Grace. So near the heart." The Count looked past de Brugy and spoke to Gamelost. "They have you too, Baron? Then all is done. What a waste. What a damned waste." The battle noise reached a terrifying crescendo for a few moments, making speech impossible. De Brugy mounted and rode a few dozen yards further south, in time to see the 1st Heavy Guards Cavalry Brigade hurl themselves into a line of exhausted Royal Guardsmen. The battle was fierce, and beyond all explanation the heavies broke on the bayonets of the guard and routed back across the field. "Steady, mice, steady. Hold your lines." The nearby Burgundian infantry did hold, and the 2nd Brigade of Heavy Cavalry rode forward to fill the place of their retreating comrades. Wallace rode up. "Blast and drat it all, your Grace, I thought we had them. They are stubborn and prickly, like angry hedgehogs that ain't had their milk in a month. But we will have them, by my right ear, we will have them." De Brugy held up a paw. "Hold a little. Let us hope they will see reason." An aide was dispatched under flag of truce. The Royal Guards Brigade was the last unit resisting on this side of the field. Perhaps they would lay down their arms. During the pause, the roar of artillery from the west continued. The Crimsonian commander approached. What was his name? De Brugy wondered. Grado? Gradost? A Stilwanese name? Yes, Gradost. Dirty rebels, the lot of them. De Brugy would pay them back for what they had. Never mind that now. Grados spoke. We cannot hang about here, Duke. I'll send my Republican guards in. They'll finish that bunch of aristos. We need to move the army west. I have news that the Ubelkanese, and at this he spat, are butchering what is left of 1st Division. If half the Crimsonian army isn't dead on this field, I will be astounded. Astounded, I say. De Brugy shook his head. The Viscount Muskrat and my 2nd Corps will deal with Ublico, and Wallace's 3rd Corps is right behind them, and even 4th Corps should be cresting King's Knob any moment now. The mercenaries will not escape. Dunbarra and Ublico shall rue the day. Never mind that now. Tell your guards to hold. Those royal troops have fought well for Maustria and their king. I will give them a chance. A short chance. The aide returned and muttered something in de Brugy's ear. Really? Well, this day does not cease to surprise. Tell them we accept. The Duke turned to the staff officer around him. Ceasefire and hold current positions. Grados started shouting, but de Brugy simply rode away. Rode towards the Royal Guards Brigade. Just outside of musket range, he halted, dismounted, and removed his hat. After a few minutes, a small party came out from the guards. A wounded major, some burly veterans, and a young mouse in the uniform of a colonel of guards. They approached de Brugy as silence began to fall across the field. Only a few stubborn Ubicon guns boomed to the west. Never mind that now. Time. There will always be more time, de Brugy muttered. The party halted a dozen steps away, and de Brugy advanced in turn, receiving the salute from the wounded major and avoiding the gaze of the veterans, all of whom, de Brugy noted, wore the distinctive badge of the Black Whiskers. The Duke de Brugy approached the young mouse in the colonel's uniform, nodded his head, and then knelt at his feet. Your Majesty, I am glad you are alive. Uninjured, I pray. The war is over now, Your Majesty. We will have peace. You will have your throne, and I will be your most humble of servants. Maustria must not be divided, and at the end of the 3rd Battle of Milberkäse, it is divided no longer. Sivka is king, and the Duc de Brugy is regent and head of the Council of Nobles. Many thousands are dead on the field, most of them wearing Crimsonian red or Maustrian blue. But it is the Burgundii Greens who take the ultimate prize. Leadership of the whole kingdom and perhaps the continent. Maustria has been devastated by years of civil war, and Crimsonia has lost its finest commander and thousands of its bravest troops. But finally, the Wars of Succeesion are at an end. Or at least, this campaign is at an end. Really, it ended months ago. I've just been slack in writing the script and making this video. A huge thanks to all those who played in the Maustria Divided campaign. We started in March and ended in September 2024, although this was really a continuation or expansion of the 3rd campaign, Maustrian Supremacy, so it was over a year from beginning to end. Since then I've run a Game of Thrones inspired game called A Song of Mice and Fire, and another of my award-winning Galactic Empires etc. games. Perhaps I will make a video about them one day. For now I'm planning on running one game at a time. And after Easter, I plan to take us all back to good old Mausika as the rebellion rises from the ashes like a phoenix. If you'd like to play in one of these campaigns, you can. There's room for almost everyone. Remember to comment, like, subscribe, and send some cheese via the old PayPal link. Thanks to everyone. Cheers.